Welcome everyone for today's proceedings, and we are hoping that more of your friends would join us in few minutes. But we'll start, we'll not delay any further. So in the first session today, we have 4 interesting talks lined up. The first one is on connecting the curriculum framework with real-world applications. So that will be presented by Professor Ritika Gautam from Department of Chemistry. Then we have gender sensitivity in teaching environment by Professor Ushashi Roy from Mechanical Engineering. Um, we'll have sort of demo come uh, instructional talk on video making for instructional purposes, because that's something that is coming up now where we can effectively utilize the laboratory demonstrations in teaching curriculum. And Professor Santosh Mishra from BSB will be talking about that. And before tea break, we'll have another talk by Professor Amit Kuber on communication strategies. So, Ritika.
Thank you, Professor Kelkar, for the kind introduction. So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming on Sunday morning. And so, let's get started with our today's session, first talk. So, today I will be talking about how we can utilize the real world application, even though I have written chemistry because that's my field, but I'm going to have a very, general so that it includes people from different background. So what is the objective? Why do we want to relate or integrate the real world application in the teaching curriculum? Why is it important? That's our major question. Now, some of the major challenges, the current challenges which we face in the teaching setup is there is a lot of heavy focus on the theoretical knowledge. Very less focus is being given on the practical application. There is also a lot of disconnect at times when we explain to students certain concepts, certain ideas, that how does it relate to the industry or the societal needs. Eventually, when they are going to be out of the IIT setup or when they are going to be out of university or institute, how are they going to utilize that concept? There is a lot of insufficient emphasis on how to do the critical thinking, collaboration skills, and obviously problem solving. And especially with the advent of AI, it has become even more difficult to have a critical thinking among the students that all of you being TAs will face eventually even in future when you are going to teach their students. And lack of engagement definitely among the students because of abstract. Most of the time, like before, a lot of things used to happen like, chalk talk, board writing. But now with the, most of the faculty going with the abstract or the slides kind of, teaching, what happens most of the time that among the cracks, many concepts, they, they are lost, and that kind of prevents the students to get engaged in the class. So this is one of the major common questions. So these are, like the current challenges which we face all the time. But what is the most common challenge when we go in the class and students face? So why are we learning this? Especially you will see that, students from computer science in the very first year, when they are going electrical engineering, civil engineering in the first year, when they are teaching, they are being taught the core courses, chemistry, physics, maths. The very first question comes that why am I studying this chemistry? Why am I studying life science? Why am I studying this, right? And the question obviously comes back to you being the TA. So many times they fail to see the immediate application of most of the concepts. So my today's talk, it's going to focus or give you guys being TAs the idea about how to, bring this idea to the students that no, what you are studying, how is it going to help eventually in your future career, or how does it relate to your eventually future career, industry relevance, or wherever, eventually they want to go. So what's the benefit of this? So obviously it's going to encourage active learning through practical experiments or the real world problem solving. Second, it's going to bridge the gap between the education and the professional requirement, obviously preparing students for whatever career they eventually want to do. It's going to also provide them transferable skills. Many times when we don't know what's the use of certain topic or the concept that we are studying, we don't show much interest. The moment we realize that, acha, it's going to be, utilized here, or if I'm from this field, this field, this field, this is where it's going to be utilized, we eventually start having lot more interest in the particular topic compared to before. And obviously, it's also going to, sorry, most of the time I've written chemistry because that's my field, but it enhances the students' motivation, as I said. So this is what my talks roadmap is that we are going to. So you being TA, you are the major bridge between the theory and the application, and that's why it's very important that we as a faculty or you as a student or you as a staff understand that it's very important for the students to make the connection between the concepts and their application. Your explanation, your activities, or your examples are definitely going to make things much more interesting for them and how they perceive a particular topic. Now, what are different strategies that you can utilize? So it's all about, that it's important to connect the real world, the concepts to the real world application, but how do we do that? So there are several ways, there are several strategies that we can utilize. For instance, you can use the analogies or stories at times. So I will also give you example from different fields, not just from my own field, but from different fields so that you can relate that your own concepts, how they can be applied to the real world. So you can use analogies or stories to relate the abstract concept to the daily or the experiences. Bring the current events at times, show how classroom ideas, they apply to the real world challenge. It always helps to have a practical example through, like industry cases, some case studies, some projects, some experiments. And I also understand that, many times when you are giving a tutorial, when you are giving a short lecture, and if you are not part of a lab study, so then it becomes difficult to bring all these experimentation. But within your domain, whatever is possible, you should try to bring that into picture. Very important. And obviously, like also show them interdisciplinary link, that how this is not only related to your own field of study, but also to economics, to health, to environment or technology or different fields, okay? So that they eventually, if they want to go for some interdisciplinary study, they should be open to such things, right? And they should be able to understand that, okay, it's not going to help only in my field of study, but also eventually wherever I go for. So again, as I said, one of the major common challenges that students face is, why are we learning this? They do not see any immediate application. That's why most of the time they lose interest in the field. And these are some of the common ways, by using small videos, by using small articles, or even at times, ask them, suppose you being TA, you are in institute, you always come across different lectures, which there is a expert which is coming to the department. You can always tell the undergraduate student that, this specific person is going to give a talk on this specific day, you go and attend this talk. He is going to talk about this concept. They might go, they might not understand at times. But eventually, that's how the things go. When we go to certain talks, initially we might not understand the talk, or we might not understand some of the terminologies that are being used by the expert. But eventually what happens, these small, even if we imbibe 5% or 10% of the talk, that eventually helps us when we keep going to such expert talks and eventually, connects the dot somewhere. So practical tips for the TAs, real life hook, ask the students to share where they see the particular concept being applied. So always, as I do in my own class, whenever I start certain topic, the very first thing, like I ask that, okay, if I am teaching you certain concept of pH, where do you see the pH for the first time, any real world, like in the morning, in the daytime, or even like day to life. Suppose you are making a lemon juice, right? You are using a lemon. What do you know about the content of the lemon? It's citric acid, right? Citric acid has low pH or high pH. You use soap. Soup, what is the pH of the soap? Is it alkaline? Is it acidic? So they know that it's alkaline. So that's how they start having interest in the topic that I'm going to start. So that's how you can utilize in your lectures, in your class. So even though it's a group work, we have people all scattered around. So I thought I will give a group work where you can just think about any concept that you came across in your lecture, in your tutorial, in your class, and try to relate it to the real life example. And we will come back to this later. Now, I want to show couple of examples from my own chemistry background, okay, and then we will move on to different fields. And this will also help you to understand that how am I relating my chemistry field to the real world examples, and you can do the same for your own field. For instance, we know that onions, we get eye watering happening all the time when we are cutting the onions, right? And why is it happening? So that's something which happens on day-to-day basis in everyone's house, right? So why is it happening? So obviously there is certain chemical, 1-propane sulfonic acid, which looks something like this, CH3, CH, double bond CH, then S, sulfur, and OH, right? So this is the compound which is not causing eye watering, but this is one of the component of the enzyme which is present in the onion. So this is actually changing, or the conformation rearranges to something like this, where we have, it's called the concept of also tautomerism. So I am teaching two main things. I am teaching them tautomerism. At the same time, I am also teaching my students that, see, this is the molecule which is present in the enzyme of the onion, okay. So with one strike, I am using two concepts which is helping them to understand the application, and they are also having interest in the topic. So you see this is rearranging from here to here, where SOH is changing into S and double bond O. And this is the compound which eventually leads to watering of the eye. So you see how I am utilizing, but this is something, like which has been picked up randomly. But for you, it might be more interesting if you are going to a lab, if you are going to a lecture, and you pick up that particular topic, so that initially they start relating that, okay, this is something which I have used in the day-to-day life. This is something which I hear from everyday life in the news, in the different, sources. So second, chemistry of the ice cream. So most of the students, they like ice cream, but they don't know the chemistry behind it. For instance, chemistry, it consists of fats, proteins, emulsifier, okay. Now, if we talk about different components of this fat, proteins, emulsifier, they are, like in different percentage. So we have almost, if you see, 50% of the ice cream is air bubble, whereas ice crystals is 30%, fat droplets or liquid syrup are only like, less than 50% constituent of the ice. Then at the same time, the flavor or the colors that we see, we say vanilla flavor, we say chocolate flavor, we say, strawberry flavor. So obviously there are different compounds which correspond to these flavors and the colors. At the same time, in order to prevent these ice cream from melting faster, we also use certain stabilizer like alginic acid or the salts of these alginic acid. So you see, what am I doing? I'm using something which students find really fascinating, right, from the everyday life, and I'm utilizing that to bring the concept of the chemistry into it and tell them that, this is something which you use everyday life. So if suppose I want to talk about emulsifier, I can definitely bring up the concept of ice cream. Same is the case for sunscreen. We use it all the time. But do we know that UV radiations, they can be of 3 different types: UVA of certain wavelength, UVB of even lower wavelength, and UVC of 290 and 100 nanometer, which is even lower. Now, do all the sunscreen, they have all the, like components which can prevent these UV radiations to pass through? No. So, depending on what blocker you have in which particular sunscreen, you will have different activity or different blocker. So, these are the different compounds. So, these are, like few examples from chemistry that can be utilized to tell them the real world application. So, let's not go. But if we talk about some simple concept, okay, so these are, like randomly taken concepts from different topics. But if we talk about the, very basic concept which students study all the time, like Newton's third law. So every action has equal and opposite reactions, and the real life connection that you can do, which we have been studying from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th standard, recoil of the gun, pushing a wall, or the rocket launcher. So it helps them relate. So since I gave example from chemistry, I wanted, since we have students from different background, I wanted to bring different disciplines and show them that how does these concept of the classroom definition can be converted into the real life application. So if you see, for instance, in case of physics, Newton law, I just now said, chemistry, pH, we also talked, life science, if you are giving them concept of the diffusion, you can say that, where do we use this application? For instance, the smell of the perfume is spreading, or even the exchange of oxygen inside our lungs. It happens because of the passive diffusion. Along with the active diffusion, there is also concept of passive diffusion. Same is the case in case of mathematics. We have probability, likelihood of the event, then rolling of the dice, predicting rain. So all these, concepts are utilized in day-to-day life by different career path or the people working at different sites. Same for computer science, algorithm, step-by-step problem solving process can be used. Obviously, like the concept of the Google map navigation definitely uses the computer science algorithm. So then civil engineering is stress and strain. All the bridges which are built, their bending or the curvature, they are determined by the civil engineers. If they do not know the concept of stress and strain, they will not be able to explain such thing, okay? Or they will not be able to make or do the proper justice to the work that they are doing. Same for the cognitive science. So we have cognitive biases, errors in the judgment due to our mental shortcuts, and that actually affects eventually the brand loyalty or the stereotyping in the hiring process. Then same for economics. So these are from different disciplines. Now something what I have personally realized, and based also on the survey that we had in the past, that students, the major motive of any student coming to IITs or any institute, university or any place is career path, right? Eventually they want to have a good career path. So very important. So you can utilize that. And it's very important that if we tell the students that suppose you are studying certain concept and how you can eventually utilize, or how there are companies which are actually hiring people with certain concepts, it makes them even more motivated or interested in that field of study. For instance, if I say in case of quantum mechanics, study of matter, and many times it might not be like very specific example, but even if you give them a broad spectrum of example, still they will be interested. Still they will be, like fine that, okay, this is something which can eventually be utilized in my field of study. This is in my career path. Eventually when I go for this, suppose I'm going for IBM or Google, there are companies, good companies actually, which are working in the basic quantum computing, and they are using this specific concept. So it's not like I'm just studying for nothing. It is something which will be eventually utilized. Same for chemistry. If we are teaching them coordination complexes, metal ions, there are field of, like there are certain pharmaceutical companies which are making these drugs and which are making these medications, and eventually you can make a career in the field of drug discovery, green chemistry. Today, like sustainable energy, it's becoming such a big deal. So you can make that career path. Same for other fields, computer science, machine learning algorithm, you can use career in the AI research, self-driving cars are coming, healthcare diagnostics are coming, then data-driven drug discovery is coming. So all these things, it's very important, and like it becomes easier. Just the whole purpose at the end of the day is to make them interested in the topic that you are teaching. That's it, okay? So, and obviously the examples that you will be giving, they should be able to relate that what they want to do eventually. So here since we have students from different background, I did bring up, like civil engineering, electrical engineering, and as I said, many times it does not have to be very targeted. But even if you show them, like the broad spectrum, that there are people in civil engineering who are using material science, like lightweight construction, civil engineers, they are using. Cable insulation or the semiconductors, electrical engineers, they are studying. Then there is molecular simulation or the material informatics for computer science and engineering. So they are all eventually related. And I also, like put up. Okay. Okay. Huh. So, and then we study all the time for statistics and probability. So, civil engineers, they have to understand today, like, if they are making all these roads, bridges, they have to understand what is the risk assessment, what is the infrastructural safety issues which are related. If they don't know the concept of statistic or probability, they will never ever be able to, like make the safe bridges, or maybe some of the bridges that we are eventually having which are collapsing. This is one of the issue because people or the experts in this field, they might not have such concepts, strong concepts in that field. Then reliability analysis of the device and the circuits. If you don't have idea about stats, electrical engineers, they will not be able to. So these are the things which will keep them interested and at the same time also show the relevance that why they are studying this specific field. Then I also, one thing I also did, as I said, not very specific, but I also put up, because many times students who are in the field of engineering, they do not find interesting to study the core courses, especially chemistry, physics, life sciences, okay, mathematics. Mathematics still they will find application, but it becomes very important if they see that, okay, thermodynamics, all these companies, NTPC, TERI, then NVIDIA, then Tata, TCS. So all these companies working in different fields of electrical engineers, computer science, civil engineers, they are utilizing these concepts. It's not like it's being taught just because, it's there as a part of the course curriculum. There's a reason why it has been included in there. Same for nanotechnology. Now, lot of nano mission and all these, investment is going on from the side of the government as well as different industries, because they want to make nano coating materials, they want to go for nano electronics, they want to go for nano design in the computational, they also want to go for the nano based drug delivery. So, these concepts, if you relate them to specific companies like Siemens, L&T, all these companies, it will just keep them motivated to be part of what you are teaching. Now, other than this, one important thing that I also wanted to bring up, that what happens over the period of time, that many, including me, like, even I have seen like many faculty, many TAs, many tutors, everyone. What we have a very like narrow mindset in terms of that, okay, if I am in the field of, even in chemistry, if I am in the field of bioinorganic chemistry, I am going to focus only on that. If I am in the field of chemistry, I am going to focus only on that. If I am in the field of physics, I am going to focus on that. If I am electrical engineering, it doesn't work like that. The reason I am saying, if you see all these scientists, they are all Nobel laureates. Okay? And if you see their background or the training, the first person, John Barden, he was undergraduate, his BS was in electrical engineering. He got the Nobel Prize in physics. So you see what he started with and eventually where is he going. And he got actually two Nobel Prizes starting from electrical engineer. He got 2 Nobel Prizes in physics. Same for if you see John Goodenough, he got Nobel Prizes for the lithium ion batteries in chemistry, and his background was mechanical engineering. So you see where they are starting and where they are eventually going. It's such a stark difference between what they are starting and what they are going. So if they have this eventually when they were starting, if they would have this mindset that no, I'm not going to study bio, I'm not going to study chemistry, I'm not going to study physics, or I'm like, being from this electrical, if you say. And the reason, if you see one important thing, the reason I have brought up mostly engineering field to show that how the core fields like physics, chemistry, maths, how do they play such a significant role. So all these Nobel Prizes were given in the fields and they had the background which was mostly in engineering, fine. And then last, from chemistry, I also wanted, 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was given to David Baker for computational protein design. This person, his background was biochemistry, and he went for Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So it has computational, it had biology, and it had chemistry. You see, it's inculcation of 3 different fields. So if he had started with that, no, I am going to be, like just a biology person, or I am going to be just computational person, this would have never been possible. So he got 2024 Nobel Prize for computational protein design in collaboration, and also in collaboration with these two scientists for the protein structure prediction. So I hope I have been able to, convince you that how relating the concepts that are being taught in the class, relating them to the real world application plays very significant role, and not only significant role, it kind of, increases the curiosity of the students to know more and more about certain topic. Fine. So that's all for today, and I would be happy to take any questions if there are. Any questions? No? Okay. Yes.
First of all, it was a very nice talk, Ritika. I wanted to add to it that one thing that people, and particularly in engineering and science, do not give much attention to is the humanities. And most of the good companies hire humanities people because they play a very important role. After all, engineering and science is done for society and human beings, and knowing that aspect is very, very important. So sometimes, when TAs are working in humanities courses, they kind of cannot connect, but I think this is a very good example. And I would also would like to tell them there's a book called Techies and Fuzzies, which talks about, this is a language from Stanford University, where people who do science and engineering are known as techies, and the humanities people are fuzzies. And the book actually argues how fuzzies are so important, how they're being hired by companies to even become CEOs and all that. Because sometimes you can learn a lot of technical stuff or know about it, but if you're a CEO, knowing about the human aspect, how people will react to it, is very important. So that aspect also one should talk about, particularly when one is dealing with the students. Thank you very much.
True, true. I agree. And all of you, very important from time to time, not only in your own practice, being TAs, most of you are PG students, that ethics and integrity, which comes under humanities. Like, there is no substitute for that. So from time to time, not only to yourself, but also to students, because, as I said, you are the one who are the bridging gap between us, or even the concepts that we are teaching to students, and between the students. So you are a bridging gap. So if you set the trend right, that is what they are going to follow. So ethics and integrity, very important. So that's something which should be brought among the students from time to time, and they tend to forget at times, but it's important to bring it up. Thank you.